Hello, my friends. Welcome back. We are going to start the last story of our fairy tale unit, and it's going to be broken down into two parts also. So you'll have today and tomorrow to work on this story. Now, today's story is called Jack and the Beanstalk. And in this story, we're going to hear about a plant. Okay. Now we've talked about plants in another fairy tale, but it wasn't you probably didn't even think about it or even know about it. But if you go back to think about Rapunzel, Rapunzel had to change straw into gold. Well, straw is a form of a plant. It's a dried out plant, and it's like the really tall grasses and stuff you get in the fields. And so today we have a plant in our story also, and it's going to be an important plant. It's an important part of the story. So when we listen to our story, you got to listen carefully for it, okay? So before we get started, though, let's get going on our vocabulary words so you know what things are. Our first word is attic, a room at the top of a house in the space under the roof. The attic was filled with old photo albums and dusty boxes. Fierce, very strong, dangerous. A fierce wind blew the roof off the treehouse. Precious, valuable or very special. Kelly's teddy bear wasn't very expensive, but it was very precious to her because it had been hers since she was a baby. Tremble, to shake from cold or fear. The scary storm made Juan tremble. Wringing, twisting something hard with both hands, twisting one's hands in pain or nervousness. After a fun day at the beach, the children sat wringing the water out of their bathing suits. So it's also like you could wring your hands together like this. People do this. That's wringing, or you can like twist something, and that's wringing it out also. Okay, so let's go. All right, I want you to think, have you ever traded something you had for something you've wanted? If you did, do you think it was a good or fair trade? So let's say that I have, let's say I have this little flower, but I like your mask, and I want to trade you my flower for your mask. Do you think that's a good trade? Probably not, because now you're without a mask and all you have is a flower, right? So think about that as we read our story, because I want you to listen carefully and learn what we trade in this fairy tale. And I want you to decide, is it a good trade or a bad trade? Okay. And I also want you to listen carefully to find out how a plant is important for a fairy tale. Okay. So let's share. Here we go. All right, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a poor widow. So a widow is somebody who's lost either a husband or their wife. And in this case, this woman is a widow, so she's lost her husband, who had only one son named Jack and a cow named Milky White. All they had to live on was the milk the cow gave every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. But one morning, Milky White gave no milk. "Oh, Jack," said the poor widow, wringing her hands, "we have nothing to eat and no money. We must sell poor Milky White." So she's really upset, so she's wringing her hands together like this. "Cheer up," said mother, or "cheer up, mother, Jack. It's market day today. I'll sell Milky White, then we'll be better off. You'll see." So Jack took the cow and started down the road. He had not gone far when he met an unfamiliar man. The old man said, "Good morning, Jack." "Good morning to you," said Jack, and he wondered how the old man knew his name. "Well, Jack, where are you off to?" said the man. "I'm going to the market to sell our cow there." "Oh, yes, you look just the sort of fellow to sell a cow," said the man. "Now, I wonder," he asked Jack, "do you know how many beans make 5?" Jack thought it was a strange question, but he answered anyway. 2 beans in each hand and 1 bean in your mouth. That makes 5. "Right you are," said the old man, and then, pulling something out of his pocket, he said, "And here they are." He held out 5 very unusual beans. "Now, because you're such a smart fellow," he said to Jack, "I will trade you these beans for your cow." "Well, now," said Jack, "that would be a nice trade for you." Ah, but don't you know what kind of beans these are? Said the man. If you plant them tonight, then by morning they will grow right up to the sky. Really? Said Jack, who was beginning to get interested. Yes, said the man. And if it doesn't turn out to be true, then you can have your cow back. All right, said Jack. He gave the man the cow, took the beans, and went home. Okay, do you think Jack should have made that trade? I don't think so. What do you think his mom's going to think when he comes home with a handful of beans? Think she might be a little upset? Probably. So right now, looking, it's not a very fair trade so far. He got the cow, and all he got was a handful of beans. And he's probably going to get in trouble when he gets home. Jack, are you back already? Said his mother. I see you've sold Milky White. How much did you get for her? Mother, you'll never guess, said Jack. Oh, you good boy, said his mother. Did you get 5 or 10 or maybe even no? It can't be 20? Okay, so what do you think his mom's referring to when she says 5 or 10 or 20? Probably some money. And did he get money? He got beans. I told you that you couldn't guess, said Jack. Then reached into his pocket. He said, see here, mother, I got 5 beans. You plant them and then overnight they, what? Cried his beans? You gave away my Milky White for beans? How could you be such a fool? Off to bed with you and no supper. And as for your precious beans, here they go out the window. Okay, so Jack thinks they're very special beans, but his mom doesn't think so, and she throws them. Do you think anything special is going to happen with these beans? I don't know. All right, let's keep going. So Jack went to his little attic room without dinner, where he flopped down and finally fell asleep. So his room is at the top of the house under the roof. When he woke up, the room looked funny. The sun was shining into part of it, but all the rest was dark and shady. He jumped up and went to the window. What do you think he saw? All right, so what is Jack looking at? Pretty big beanstalk, isn't it? Why, the bean his mother had thrown out the window had landed in the garden, and overnight they had sprung up into an enormous beanstalk, which went up, 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 and up until it reached the sky. So the old man had been telling the truth. Uh-oh. The beanstalk grew up to Jack's window. All he had to do was step out onto it, and then he started climbing it like a ladder. So Jack climbed and he climbed and he climbed until at last he reached the sky. And when he got there, he saw a long, straight road. He followed the road until it came to a great, big, tall house. And on the doorstep, there was a great, big, tall woman. All right, so what do you notice about the woman in the picture? She's a giant. And in fairy tale, giants are common characters. They usually are found in fairy tales. All right, let's keep reading. Good morning, ma'am, said Jack quite politely. Could you be so kind as to give me some breakfast? Oh, you want some breakfast? Said the great big tall woman. Well, you'll be breakfast. Get out of here. My husband is a fierce giant, and there's nothing he likes better than a nice cooked boy on buttered toast. Okay, so if somebody's fierce, they're very strong and dangerous. Does that sound like something that we could have happen in real life or in a fantasy? Well, if they're strong and dangerous, that could happen in real life because we do have some people that could be strong and dangerous. But you normally see giants? No. So that part is fantasy. You better get going, for he'll be coming soon. Oh, please, ma'am, said Jack. I haven't eaten since yesterday, really and truly. How tiny he is. Well, the giant's wife wasn't so bad after all. She took Jack into the kitchen and gave him a chunk of bread and cheese and a jug of milk. Jack hadn't half finished these when thump, 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 the whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone coming. Someone big. Okay, so to tremble means it shakes. So it's shaking the whole house. So who do you think's coming? You think it's her husband, the giant, a fierce giant? All right, what do you think is going to happen next? Because guess what? We stop right here. So we can't finish the story till tomorrow. So I want you to make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen next? Okay, here's Jack sitting here eating bread and cheese and milk. And then here comes the giant. And we already know that the giant likes to eat little boys. So we're going to stop there. And I'm going to ask you some questions about our story we just read because you're going to have to go answer them in Google Classroom in a minute. All right. Do you think Jack traded when he traded the cow for the beans? At the beginning of the story, I don't think he made a good trade, but now that we see the guy wasn't telling a lie, that it really did grow up to the sky, it might not be quite a bad idea. But now there's giants involved, so I don't know. It could be pretty dangerous. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Why is Jack's mother wringing her hands in the beginning of the fairy tale? And she's worried because her cow, Milky White, has stopped giving milk, and now they have no way to make some money and they have no way to eat. So, why do you think the man traded the beans for the cow? Do you think maybe he was just trying to be nice and helpful and trying to help Jack out? Or do you think he just wanted the cow to sell for himself to get money? Could be lots of different answers. All right, what does Jack's mother do when she hears about the trade? She got angry, didn't she? She threw those beans out the window, and then she sent Jack to his room without supper. Do you think the beans are precious? Remember, that means that they're really special. Or does she think the beans are really precious? No, she thinks they're just regular old beans. What does Jack discover when he wakes up the next morning? That giant beanstalk, where mom threw those beans out, now there's a giant beanstalk growing. Would a plant really grow this fast, or is this fantasy? It's fantasy. Remember, at the beginning of the year, we planted seeds in the baggies. They didn't grow that fast, did they? Could a person really climb a beanstalk? No, beanstalks are really tiny and they're really thin. So if you were to step on one, you could break it. Who does Jack meet after he climbs the beanstalk? The very tall woman, the giant woman, and she's about to meet the fierce giant, which is a little scary. All right, so how does this part of the fairy tale end? Well, the woman gave Jack breakfast, then the house begins to tremble, and someone big is coming to the house. And we will find out what happens tomorrow. So friends, go to Google Classroom, answer your questions, and I'll see you guys tomorrow to finish up Jack and the Beanstalk. Bye, friends.